what, if anything, at this point will make Vladimir Putin back down?
Well, at the moment, the Russians have reached what's called their culminating point, which means they can't really go any further. And despite lots of reports, I've heard those reports that the Russians have millions or hundreds of thousands of reserves, they haven't. That's not true. They're not ready. So they've gone as far as they can go for now. And I'm talking now for the foreseeable future. So we're at a point of stalemate. Ukrainians have won this phase to the extent that they've prevented the Russians from achieving any of their major objectives. So what could make Putin back down was your question. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I understand this is an advancement of troops on the ground, but if the shelling continues with the force that we've had it so far, they could reduce a large part of Ukraine to rebels like they did in Aleppo, Syria.
Well, that's right, and I think that's what they're going to do, although they'll probably reframe their campaign and focus it on one or two areas, down in the Donbass and probably in Kyiv as well, I think, to fix the bulk of Ukraine's forces in both those areas. But there are weapons that the West hasn't used yet, and I'm not talking about the big ones. I mean, we hear very little, for example, about the cyber campaign, which I'm certain is furiously raging now. And there's plenty in the West's arsenal there, which certainly would act as a deterrent to Putin were they to deploy it or even threaten to deploy it.
So, Frank, what happens next? What will make Vladimir Putin back down? He's rearranged, or he's expected to rearrange the war. How many troops will he need on the ground if he does win those parts to then secure them?
Well, what he's going to do now is he's going to reframe the campaign on the ground. It's likely that certain areas there'll be withdrawals. The Ukrainians are already gaining ground, although particularly in that northeastern area around Sumy. So they're pushing back, fairly small gains at the moment, but significant. And the Russians are going to have to dig in there. And paradoxically now, the Russians are going to have to go on the defensive in those areas so that they can focus back on the Donbass area and, of course, the key centre of gravity, Kyiv. Kyiv will not be taken now, but I suspect it will be shelled. As I say, we've not seen the West deploy or Ukraine deploy cyber yet, or space.
Frank, I guess I don't know how difficult it is to verify how many Russian forces have lost their lives and how difficult that is for Vladimir Putin to justify back home, where there's a big campaign of disinformation and where very few people understand what's going on.
Well, that's right. I mean, I would suspect that Allied estimates or Western estimates of between, probably now we're looking at about 9,000 to 15,000 dead are about right. However, it must be said, and I know it's cruel to say it, most of those losses from the intelligence we've seen, credible intelligence we've seen so far, are from the Russian periphery. They're not striking at the heart of Russia yet. Many of them are from the peripheral and poorer republics. And from Putin's perspective, those are expendable.